Marshall Newhouse, former TCU and NFL offensive lineman. Look, we're a college football show at our heart.
Okay, nice. I love it.
We're a college football show, so I'm going to start out talking about TCU and the Big 12. And look, they went from, I mean, they were right there, and then they ran up against one of the best teams in the history of college football.
Sure.
You know, like one of those things. Where do you feel as a guy who was there? You played for Coach Patterson, and then seeing what they were, then having to kind of go through it, and looks like they're back up on the upswing now.
Yeah, definitely. I think Coach Sonny Dykes has put some good foundations in place, and I think it was going to take a little bit more time than maybe even I wanted for him to redefine things on his own terms and be out of Coach Patterson's shadow, because ultimately that 2022 team that made to the national championship were mostly Gary Patterson's recruits, and so he was never going to, he did the best with what he could. And that's, saying you're a runner-up in the national championship is nothing to shake a stick at. But I think the next year, taking a step back, it was like, okay, he's got to recalibrate. He's got to continue to recruit on his own terms, build and hire coaches and players on his own terms, and then also deal with the changing NIL transfer portal landscape. And so I think he's doing a really exceptional job at that. And it's just been fun to watch. And so I got a chance to go call the bowl game in Albuquerque, and they were very workmanlike. That's an easy game. They kind of got snubbed with the bowl selections just because they didn't take care of business. They were only 8-4, so they got to go to New Mexico and play Louisiana. Okay, a lot of teams would have been like, we're too good to be here. They prepared all week. They took the practice seriously. They have a lot of leadership on that team, and they smacked Louisiana around like they should. And so it's a good note to end the season on and go back into the offseason in. And listen, the Big 12, I think year in and year out, is going to be one of the more competitive, fun leagues to be in, and TCU should be right up there every year if they take care of business. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the league is so fun.
So fun.
It's so fun to watch. Arizona State coming out of nowhere. We've talked about this ad nauseum on our show, but before the year they sent out the media ballot. We had it essentially upside down.
The whole thing was flipped. I remember seeing that. The whole thing was flipped. It's crazy how the year ended up, but that's an incredible story. Coach Kenny Dillingham and them take advantage of the transfer portal as well, and listen, that kind of equals the playing field in the short term, but you still have to have a good foundation. I think he's building a really good foundation there in Tempe, and getting good guys, especially coming from the Herm Evans years. They were kind of rudderless. As rudderless as programs get, they were rudderless. So to see them kind of pop out of nowhere and win the championship, win the Big 12 conference, was a lot of fun, and they competed with Texas. I was so impressed by them.
Yeah, you are doing the broadcasting thing now.
Yes, I am.
And how much fun are you having?
I'm having a blast. This was, once I was told during my career, hey, you should give this a shot. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But I was always maintaining good relationships with the teams I played on, the PR, the media people. And then, a couple of years ago, I was like, I'm going to give this a real, honest try. And but what you realize really quickly is that, listen, I'm, again, a rookie again. So you've got to really approach it that way.
There's less hazing.
Well, yeah, it's like unless you're a quarterback, you just don't get preferential treatment. Not that I was expecting that, but I'm like, I got to build this up, but then show my chops, because ultimately, I hope to, get opportunities because I'm good at this, not just because I played. And but that takes me getting reps and getting myself out there. So that's been a fun thing. I started coming to Radio Row, I think 2016 in Houston, and while I was still playing, just for the idea of like meeting the people and getting my name out there, so that those doors are cracked open when I do retire. It's not I'm a new guy rushing to kind of get known and get my name out there. So I've been doing a drafting show, NFL show this year with Trey Wingo. I've learned a lot from him. It's been a lot of fun. I've done some tune-in stuff for Big 12 Radio, called some games for TCU in the bowl season, and so I'm trying to continue to do more and more and get myself out there, and I've enjoyed it so much. I knew early on I didn't want to coach, but I wanted to find some way to stay close to the game, and this has been a great way.
So you and Wingo do anything on the Baylor TCU game?
He just gives me crap all the time, so not yet.
Look, you have 8 years in a row.
I was just going to ask, you were talking about Wingo and Baylor here.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what does Paul Gonzalez, for the Baylor people, what does he bring?
Yeah. He's an incredible coach. I hate that we lost him, but he's a really knowledgeable guy. He was there, I think, at the end of Gary Patterson's tenure. So, recruiting. He's got a lot of plugs in the Texas system, and then on defense, he's got a really good, advanced, modern defensive mind. So obviously that jives with Dave Aranda and what he's trying to do, and then ultimately an attitude guy. He's an attitude. A lot of teams that I played against and with have lost their sense of that culture of attitude and toughness. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I'm not going to turn into a boomer and say everyone's soft, but I think there's a level of losing those recipes of what each individual program did to build where they are now. And so he's one of those guys who has not institutional knowledge of how it used to be in certain respects to then impose that on a lot of these young guys and who are trying to find their way. And so I think it's a good hire. I think he was looking for more responsibility, and I'm happy for him.
What do you think about this game this week? This felt inevitable for a lot of people because these teams are so they're so well run just from the top down.
Yeah.
And you played for a lot of different teams. Then you had you had things like from college to the pros of like, look, Coach Patterson for a long time that was an organization that ran well.
Yes.
And I think at the end I think he stressed himself out a little bit too much. So I think
to say the least,
I think he got a little bit. He's a high-strung dude,
yes,
and like you can't he lost the governor on the meter, a little bit. The governor just blew right off. But then you played for the Raiders, you played for other organizations. The Raiders not what you call like top-down run really well.
Right.
Now it looks like Tom Brady's come in and done that.
They're changing things, yeah.
But from a player's perspective, when you play for a team like the Eagles or the Chiefs, and I know the Chiefs kind of failed some of their facilities things a year ago, yeah. But ultimately they're dedicated to winning and they're dedicated to making the team better. How does that make you feel in a locker room when the guys at the top are making sure that this is not just a money grab?
Sure, and listen, players talk, and guys change teams, and which organizations treat their guys right especially on the quiet things that aren't public forward facing. Just how's the cafeteria? Like that's a big deal. Like how are we being nourished while we're here, and the training staff, recovery facilities, and so yeah, I was saying this earlier today. It is absolute correlation between the dedication and intentionality with all those things that you do to provide resources for your players and coaches and staff. There's directly correlated to success over the long haul because you're giving them a foundation where I'm not having to worry about, is this cold tub functioning like it's supposed to? Mm-hmm. I'm not having to worry about, are we traveling like an NFL team should be traveling? Not that we need to be in, super, super private jets, but are we cramped? Is this a cross-country flight that they're cheapening out on? All the way to, are they supporting their scouting staff? There's a team, I won't even name the team, it's not worth it, but that readily every year undermanned their regional scouting staff. Guys that have to go out to all parts of the country. They scout college and then they scout other current NFL players, and they were undermanning them by probably 75% compared to other teams. And listen, most people don't know that, but I'm like, all right, that's to me a level of a lack of understanding of how important all these things are connected, and supporting your staff to give them the best chance to then listen. If you view players as an asset and whatever, if we're Lamborghinis, why are you not giving us the best mechanics and the best fluids and the best things? And like that to me feels very obvious if you're in this for the right reasons. But listen, we can't talk about ownership. It's their money, it's their choice, but it's your choice, but it's also our choice to call you out on it, which is those anonymous polls, or just guys maybe choose another place to sign, and ultimately it leads to winning or not winning.
Yeah, and look, I think most people don't realize it's a workplace just like anywhere else.
Yes.
Like we've all had crap bosses, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so
yes.
Your job is just far different and something that everybody would want to do if they had the skill and opportunity, right. As opposed to you're like, oh yeah, well I work for an accounting firm and our boss is he doesn't give us we have old computers and we have all this and we always have these problems and everything's always broken. That happens in the NFL too.
Exactly.
I mean, that happens. I had friends that played in a couple different towns that are famous for their owners cheaping out on the other things, and then they go and it's not even it's fancy.
No.
It's just there, and they're like, this is amazing. And
the worst thing that happened to a lot of these NFL owners who were on the cheaper side of facility wise was all of these colleges spending umpteen millions to renovate their facilities, players getting recruited through that, and then going to the NFL what? This is worse than college? This should be better than college. And so there's a lot of teams that have felt the pressure to hey, we got to at least get up to par, with our facilities and the way we run things. So it's just been very interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's got a waterfall, a sushi chef.
Crazy, yes, absolutely.
The ice cream Thursdays, whatever.
They're long gone the days of this is before I got there, but the Raiders facility, Al Davis. We know he loved football, but Al Davis, they renovated and reused a basically just corporate office building, and he would barely provide the steel cold tubs for his players, and you're like, whoa, this is the Raiders. This is the Raiders, and that's. There's different levels of examples of that over the years, but people would assume differently. But when you find it out, you're like, oh, wow. Yeah. This is a guy who loved football through his core, but didn't believe in that, and I don't think helped his team in any way. Maybe it was neutral, whatever, but definitely wasn't helping his team.
Yeah, absolutely. So can the Eagles' defense Mahomes this game?
Listen, I think they have as good opportunities as anyone. If you remember the beginning of the Buffalo game, the AFC Championship game, the first drive or two drives, there were like 4 or 5 either RPOs or short passes. There was a concerted effort by the Kansas City Chiefs to get rid of the ball quickly. I think to mitigate Joe Thuney from moving from guard to tackle. Now, Joe Thuney has played incredibly well given the circumstances. I think he will continue to play incredibly well, but that is not his main position, left tackle. But they're keeping him there because they trust him, and there's a level that goes in that, especially for a guy like Mahomes. But they understand that, so they're getting rid of the ball that first drive. The Eagles are one of the best teams against short passes and short screens, so they're going to do a lot to take away that stuff, and we're going to see how Kansas City and Andy Reid counteract that. And on the other side, I think Kansas City, if you can get a lead on this Eagles team, Saquon Barkley is an incredible weapon. He's been a revelation behind this offensive line. But there's a stark difference between the way that he runs and his yards per carry when they are tied or have the lead versus when they are from behind. And so those two storylines I think are going to be huge and play out. And then obviously the Spags and the Vic Fangio and how they specifically adapt once the teams come out. Everyone's feeling each other out the first 2 drives. Those are scripted drives. You hope they go well, but if they don't, then you start to pivot. But you're going to figure out what these guys are feeling for this day, and then whoever adjusts the quickest and the most effective will win the game. But it's going to be a toss-up. These games, the margin's so close. A lot of people talked all year, almost in a negative sense, that Kansas City wasn't winning by enough. And these are eking out all these games like, no. This is intentional. They know what they're doing. They know they are not the past team with Tyreek Hill where they're taking the top off every week. They're doing what needs to be done. They're saying, get us to the fourth quarter with Pat Mahomes, the ball in his hands, and we'll go win more than we will lose. And I think that is what they are okay with, because now they've taken it to another level. Travis Kelce and he go to another level in the playoffs. He's running routes that aren't on the route tree. So he's going to get open, and they're going to do things they need to do. And at the end of the day, if you're giving the ball to Patrick Mahomes with down or tied, who wouldn't take that? They've shown so much evidence of that I feel like that's what this is going to come down to. But we'll see how things go in between. But they're so tightly matched. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel bad for Josh Allen. and it's everything he's doing.
Yeah.
It's probably, I guess, similar to be like whoever
ran into Jordan.
Yeah. Like Reggie Miller. If there's no Michael Jordan, what do we talk about with Reggie Miller?
Exactly.
It's just one of those things. That is where it kind of feels for me with Josh Allen.
On that point too. So I mentioned this earlier. I think people forgot that $500 million contract they signed is now team friendly. He's renegotiated a little bit, but he did that preemptively because they're like, this is our guy. We've got an all-timer here. Let's do this and have predicted outcomes for our revenue moving forward, even with the salary cap going up. Then we can build a team. So you got Pat on board, and so now they're not hamstrung by him wanting the biggest contract he can always get. So their mindset is like, we're going to stay here forever if we can. And that's, the rest of the teams are going to suffer.
That's what Brady did.
That's what Brady did.
Until he didn't
They
have
did
to
it in
anymore.
a less obvious way. And yeah, but yeah, absolutely. It's very in that vein.
Yeah. You're from Dallas.
Yeah.
That team is...
We're talking Cowboys or Mavericks. They're both
Cowboys.
in shambles right now.
Yeah. I want to ask you about. I'm going to ask you about the Luka thing.
Yeah.
Now that you said that, but Cowboys. I mean, it's hard to watch because here's what I know, and I've covered the Cowboys for a long time, so I know the Joneses. I know they want to win.
Sure.
But they really do. But the problem is that they don't feel a sting when they don't.
Right.
And so I think it's altered their reality of where they actually are. Because when you have Steven saying so-called drought, you kind of think
well, what reality are you living in, bud?
What are your goals?
That's a good point, that they don't feel a sting of losing, which I think is true. I also don't think, so there's a thing with athletes or competitors. Athletes specifically, there's the hierarchy is they want to get paid. They want to win, and they ultimately want to win because of me. I think Jerry and the Joneses, they want to win. I believe that, but they want it to be because of them. Because if they wanted to win more than anything, they would have stepped aside or had some structure before now, 10 years ago. Back when Quincy Carter was your quarterback, they would have figured something out years ago to either groom or hire someone who's going to be the next Nick Caserio, whatever GM and personnel guy. But no, it's got to be Jerry, because of Jerry. It's got to be because of him having the title and then winning under his title, even though we've got 25 years of evidence that is not the reason. And so that is the unfortunate thing, is that I have such a reverence for them because he built America's team from a marketing standpoint, from a success in the 90s standpoint, and then he got rid of one of the main reasons, Jimmy Johnson, because it was about him. And it will always be about him, and ultimately he deserves that right. He's a billionaire. He bought the team when there's nothing. They deserve that right, but we can't. That doesn't erase the reality of what it is. And so It's tough to be a fan because you're like, yeah, we're stuck. As long as he feels this way and they're convicted this way, we're stuck with the results of whatever they're doing over there.
Luka for Anthony Davis.
Woo!
You're a Mavs fan?
I'm a Mavs fan. Listen, I'm a night owl too. I was up. I saw the tweet from Shams, and I was equally like, that's a spoof account. This isn't real. And I started seeing all the main affiliates from the NBA confirming it, and I was immediately like, it doesn't matter if they gave us 10 first-round picks. On its face, that is a lack of appreciation for the relationship between Maverick fans specifically and their star. The Dirk entire career, we won 50, 60 games a year. He won one ring, and we were happy as clams for 15 years. That's different. We thought we had the same thing in Luka. We got him when he was a teenager. Coincidentally, he's a white European star, but whatever. He's our guy. We got to the finals. We're like, yes, he has obvious deficiencies on defense, but this is our guy. If we can eventually break through to win one, build a team around him, we will be happy. He will be happy. He is ours. And to completely throw that away, and we're now finding out that Mark Cuban just really wasn't in control, didn't have that. That's even worse, is a lack of understanding of this specific relationship. But I understand their argument on some level, but then if the argument is we want to be defensive first, but you're going to be a GM who's trading value, get more for him. Help your team out more, because a guy in between three teams with a bidding board gets another 2 or 3 first round. And so I get maybe he wants to do it in cover at night because someone's going to put a stick in the spokes of the deal. Maybe okay, but we're going to look back 20 years from now and be like, unless the Mavs win multiple rings, this was a failure of leadership and a weird way to go about it.
Yeah, and to send them, it's always the Lakers who benefit from this.
Multiple times. Paul Gasol, Shaq. I mean, they've gotten
Kareem.
Kareem.
I mean,
crazy.
Hey, they foisted Vlade Divac for Kobe in the draft.
They would have had Chris Paul if not for the commissioner. I mean, hell.
Because he got busted for the Paul Gasol thing. Yeah, absolutely. Marshall, loved having you on. Would love to have you on regularly.
Absolutely, guys.
Love to have you on regularly. Great stuff. Marshall Newhouse, find him where, with Wingo, when you watch the broadcast.
I'm on Twitter, at mnewhouse73. I'm on Blue Sky now, figuring that out. But then, DraftKings, and then I'll be calling games on radio. I do stuff for TuneIn and Big 12 Radio. I'm on the Big 12 Alumni Council, so we're working with Brett Yormark to help some of the student athlete experience. And then, I'll be continuing to do media both NFL and college, so catch me out there.
There you go, Marshall Newhouse. This is 365 Sports.